Hello there, Internet. Version 2 here with Let's read Danganronpa Zero. Did I not say this was going to happen, that I was going to call it the wrong thing at some point? I did. And, whatever. Point is, on the next Naruto, so I usually finish videos, where we left off, Junko, well, I'm putting air quotes around that. I'm personally putting air quotes around the term Junko here. Junko showed up, killed one of the steering committees, he shot himself. Madurai, was it Madurai? Yeah, Madurai showed up and was just like, you two are responsible for this, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And then Junko fought him off, she fucked off, and then Madurai was just like, well, she fucked off, so I guess Ryuko here is the only person left here. And then Ryuko was just like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take her advice and also fuck off. And something about her power came up in terms of how her power let her run away. I'm not really sure what's happening here. But either way, we've got chapters 7, 8 here. So I'm guessing it's two really short chapters. This chapter and the next chapter seem combined like half the length of the previous chapter. I'm still thinking of the final video for this series and how fucking long it's going to be because it's 100 goddamn pages. But whatever. This is episode 4 and I'm not up to 100 pages. This is page 59. So for the last one being like 90 pages long is... Okay. Chapter 7, 8. I don't know why it's combined for him. Now that's a truly strange woman, Ishiki Madurai whispered to himself while running. It wasn't that he wasn't careful. Quite the opposite. That was exactly why he was outsmarted. He couldn't have guessed from her actions she would run away like this. But in hindsight, he realized that what she did was only natural. She was trying to do that a bunch. Why would you think that she wouldn't try that? Whatever. A cornered mouse will bite the cat, or so the proverb goes. But in reality, it's very rare to find a mouse who would bite a cat. Even when they're seriously injured, can hardly move, and completely cornered, a mouse's thirst for is still to try to escape. That's not how that works. That's just a mouse's true nature. And that girl who turned heel and escaped is just the same. In other words, it's in her nature to run away. In that case, all I have to do is catch her, and this will be over in no time. His mouth twisted in a cruel smile. His face was that of a hunter, chasing his prey. But his true goal wasn't simple, relentless predatism, and that cruel smile was perhaps a little excessive. I'll catch her, and after giving her a good beating, I'll make her tell me everything about that incident. The worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history. Madurai hated that incident and everyone involved in it. Yeah, like 13 people died, duh. Right now, getting revenge for the incident was the only thing driving him. It gave him motivation. He got his chance a few hours ago when he received a suspicious anonymous message. Junko Enoshima, who knows the secrets behind the incident, is going to show up in the Central Plaza. The possibility of it being a trap had crossed his mind, but he didn't care. Even if it had been a trap, it would have been an opportunity to see who set it up. I'm going to get my revenge. I must get my revenge. I still have someone who needs protection. Ooh. Oop. There was a flame burning inside his eyes. The moment he caught sight of his prey running ahead of him, he increased his own speed dramatically. His long hair flew behind him as he closed the distance between them in an instant. In no time at all, he would be able to reach out his arms and catch her. It's over. He pushed his left foot strongly into the ground and reached out with his long right arm. He could feel his fingers touching his prey's hair when something happened. The prey suddenly changed direction with a sharp turn, almost as if she was slipping through Madurai's hands. Taken by surprise, he lost his balance. She had timed her move perfectly, almost as if she planned it all ahead. Interesting. Madurai clicked his red tongue loudly. Sorry. And was soon back on his feet. He turned back towards his prey and started running again. But he quickly noticed something strange. His prey, running ahead of him, was doing something ridiculous. What the... The prey was writing something in a notebook as she was running. Huh? Writing while running? That's clearly impossible, however you look at it, unless it's someone who practices that every single day at pretty much every single moment. He was bewildered. It wasn't just that he couldn't understand why she was doing it. He didn't expect his prey to do anything other than simply try to escape. Isn't she just a mouse running away from danger? Could she actually have a plan beyond escaping? But it could also be a bluff. Just like when she first ran away, she might just be taking advantage of his vigilance in order to obtain a chance to escape again. Well, whatever it was, Madurai didn't have time for hesitation. His desire for revenge for the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history was too intense for him to give up now. He recklessly increased his speed and was soon within reach of his prey once again. This time, it's really over. He reached his right hand towards his prey's blind spot and grabbed her. No. All he grabbed was empty air. Once again, with timing that seemed precisely calculated, his prey suddenly changed course. Madurai, still pulled forward by leftover energy, saw a huge tree emerging from the darkness in front of him. He thrust his arms forward in panic, and the palms of his hands were soon met with the roughness of the tree's bark. What the hell is going on? Madurai kicked at the ground in anger, and was soon back in full speed. His prey was quickly within reach again, but as he reached his arms to strike her, she managed to slip away and escape again. I can't catch her? Even as that realization slowly dawned on Madurai, he couldn't explain it. She wasn't even turning her head to look at him. Her eyes were constantly on her notebook. How was she able to avoid his arms coming at her from behind her back? She wasn't even avoiding him clumsily. She did it with perfect timing. It was almost as if she could see what was going on behind her back. No, that can't be right. Her timing was far too perfect for it to be something as simple as that. It's like she knows what's going to happen in advance. You've got to be kidding. Madurai shook off the thought from his head and accelerated to full speed again. Soon, he was at his prey's defenseless back, reaching out his arm once again. The moment he was about to touch her, just as he expected, the prey dodged his hand and escaped. This time, however, Madurai anticipated it and turned his body sideways to match her movement. He extended both of his long arms and jumped towards the prey. It was a spectacular tackle. He had her. Or so he thought. What? It was as she knew he was going to anticipate her dodge. She crouched again with perfect timing and passed by Madurai's feet like a turtle, causing him to clumsily twist his body forward and crash violently into the ground. Madurai lay on the lawn for a short while, unable to move. He wasn't in pain, but a different kind of damage had been inflicted upon him. What the hell? At long last, he got back on his feet. He shook his long hair from his eyes and searched for his prey. He could see her figure running away, already small in the distance. As he watched his escaping prey, Madurai whispered to himself in an amazed tone, "I'm begging you, please don't tell me she has precognition." Precognition? That's probably what he's thinking right now. But no such thing exists, of course. No, it probably does exist somewhere in this world, at least. I'd like to think dreams sometimes mean something, but there's no way such a hackneyed power would awaken inside me during a dangerous situation. This isn't a comic book, after all. Are we going for the whole hero actually has precognition that works 30% of the time? Are we actually going with that? Is that what's happening? Whatever. No, this isn't something as outrageous as precognition. These are just predictions. I've been analysing the things he seemed to think and the actions he took, and preceding the actions he was likely to take next. That's what my notebook taught me my talent is. Super analytical proficiency. Just able to work out what people are going to be doing really well. But she always seems shocked by Matsuda. Interesting. And couldn't predict Junko either, but maybe now because she's reading about it, she's actually able to use it. I've been using my talent and predicting his next moves by analysing his behaviour patterns statistically. That's all. That said, that kind of analysis requires a vast amount of data. Without data, I can't predict anything at all, but that's exactly what Ryuko Otonashi's memory book is for. I've been extracting behaviour patterns from his speech and actions, and have been exhaustively writing them down as usable data in my notebook. The battle between Madurai and Enoshima-san was a particularly important source of data. She attacked Madurai using a variety of techniques, and possibly even let herself get hit on purpose. Now that I think about it, she was probably trying to show me as many of his attack patterns as she could. I have no idea why someone like Enoshima-san would do something like that for me, but there's no doubt that's exactly why I'm able to predict his current behavior so perfectly. This is taking turns that I'm enjoying from Ryuko's perspective. Now that, I like the idea of someone with incredibly poor memory who has, pretty good, analytical skills. Because, hey, this is the most similar protagonist to me, just extrapolated many, 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 many levels over. Nevertheless, I can't possibly predict everything about him based on just a few minutes worth of data. It's just that my current goal is simply to predict how he was going to behave in a chase situation, and for that I have more than enough. That's how I knew the timing, angles, and techniques he was going to use to try and catch me. But my current prediction is that he isn't going to give up just yet. Right now, he's still perplexed at the skill I've displayed. If my prediction is correct, he's going to realize very soon that the source of my newfound power lies in my notebook. It's likely he's going to chase me much more seriously from now on. If that's the case, there's a limit to how much I can keep running away randomly. So what should I do? I predict that the answer will probably come to me soon. I've been running for a while, relying on the crude map of the central plaza that's drawn in my notebook. Soon, I passed the area overgrown with trees and came to a clearing. Just as I predicted, there was a small building there. That was my destination. The moment I saw it, fear and bravery began to intermingle inside my head. But I have no choice. I have to forget any fear and anxiety. I have no choice. I have no choice if I want to meet Mitsuda-kun. I have to do it. I'm sure I can do it. By the way, that wasn't a prediction just now. It was just enthusiasm. I like that. I'm loving how, if the perspective is focused on anyone who isn't Ryuko, it's third person. The moment it switches back to Ryuko, it's first person. It gives a very interesting perspective of, like, because I appreciate being able to have the first person moments like this, because you're getting into Ryuko's mental state, which, because she's like clearly the focus character and there's weird things going on with her, and she's frankly a scatterbrain character who has a lot going on at once. It's good to see from her perspective directly and how she interprets things, and it can also help give into the unreliable narrator vibe that it's kind of giving us because of the fact that she has unbelievably shit memory. But then we go into third person and immediately start tracking other people, and it is still tracking other people, like, in terms of their mental mindset and everything, but it's not from that first person perspective, so there's a slightly different feel to it. And I'm wondering if it has a purpose, because there's not many novels that will constantly switch between first and third person, depending on which characters that it's talking about. And I wonder if there's a reason that it's doing that. I wonder if there's a reason that it's switching between those two. I mean, it's Danganronpa, so there's, like, going to be shit going on, and tiny details lead to things, so I'm just trying to pay attention to all the little details that this is having. Chapter 9. Madarai reached a conclusion. So that was 2 chapters just there. What the fuck? How? I guess chapter 7 probably would have been from Madarai's perspective. Chapter 8 was Ryuko's perspective. I'm guessing that's what that meant there. Madarai reached a conclusion. There was some kind of secret hiding in that notebook. Yes, that must be it. There is no such thing as precognition. She's been insistently writing in that notebook of hers, despite the fact that terrible things are going to happen to her if she's caught, which means her secret must be in there. Madarai could not imagine what that secret was, but he was certain that there was one, which means if I snatch it away, everything's going to be fine. Madarai hadn't always been prone to complicated thoughts. He had often been told that contrary to his looks, he was a cautious man, but that wasn't a trait he was born with. It was simply necessary for the job he had until recently. But now that job was meaningless. Okay, so his job is protecting people. It was my fault. It was because I couldn't protect them. The only job that mattered now is finding the culprit responsible for the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history and getting revenge. I can't afford to stand still. Not now. Madarai started running again and thought about what he had to do next in simple terms. Catch my prey, hurt her, make her talk. Now thoroughly serious, Madarai ran with all his power in the direction his prey had fled. He may have lost some time, but that was not yet a fatal loss. Even if she managed to escape, all he had to do was keep chasing her. As long as he didn't give up, it wouldn't be over. Catch, hurt, talk. He repeated those 3 words to himself, slipping through the dark trees like a black snake. He was paying careful attention to his surroundings as he ran, and suddenly, his field of vision expanded. He arrived at a small clearing that looked like a plaza. He surveyed the area, and soon noticed a small prefab shed on the other side of the clearing. Light from a street lamp next to the shed flickered continuously, creating an ominous atmosphere right out of a horror movie. Suspicious. Very suspicious. But even so, it would be faster to investigate than to wonder what's going on. Madarai reduced his speed and stepped carefully towards the shed. Its cream-colored walls and roof would normally seem pleasant, calming even, but under the flickering light they just seemed eerie. Madurai stood in front of the shed and started by peeking through the window set in one of the walls. The room in front of his eyes was dusty, matching the flickering light coming from above. It must be used for storage by the custodian of the central plaza. There were shelves packed with fertilizer bags and paint cans, as well as cleaning tools cramped all over the place. He couldn't see anyone inside, but there were a lot of places someone could hide. Madurai turned away from the window and headed to the shed's entrance. The door was wooden and light. He first touched it with just his fingertips, and once he confirmed it wasn't booby-trapped, he turned the handle. It didn't open. Someone must have locked it. Madurai crouched and observed the grass growing around the shed. Patches of ankle-high weeds were bent at their tips. Someone had stepped on them recently. Well, that settles it. However, this certainty did not at all come as a relief. Quite the opposite. The cautiousness Madurai had briefly forgotten returned in full force. So, what kind of trap has she prepared for me? Madurai took a couple of deep breaths. Then right after he let the deepest one out, he turned to the door and kicked it with all his strength. Wham! The door opened just a little bit, making a dull noise. Wham! Wham! After a few more kicks, the gaps in the door was wide enough for a single person to pass through. Beyond that gap, there was only darkness. Madurai lowered his posture and slipped into it carefully. Excuse me, coming in. The sound of feet on sand rippled through the silence. The room was larger than it seemed from the outside, and the only illumination came from the flickering light outside the window, which had little effect on the gloomy dimness covering everything. Spiderwebs spread in every corner of the shed. Opposite the window was a large stack of shelves filled with paint cans. Gravel and dust balls were scattered all over the floor, with cleaning and maintenance tools cluttered here and there. In addition, several large heaps of fertilizer sacks were stacked around the room. Hey, I know you're hiding here somewhere. Madurai's voice echoed through the small room, and suddenly his eyes were drawn to a certain spot. Behind one of the sack heaps, he thought he saw something moving. A small, shivering movement, almost as if in response to Madurai's voice. There she is. Madurai advanced slowly toward the pile with increased cautiousness. There had to be a trap here, somewhere. Many of the tools in the shed could be used as a weapon in the hands of a scared prey. Madurai could see her in his mind, hiding in the darkness, clutching one of them in her trembling hands. What are you planning? Raising his voice and staying alert, he moved even closer to the pile of sacks. By the time he reached the middle of the room, his eyes were completely adjusted to the darkness. Well, if you plan to attack me, go right ahead, he said in a cruel, flat voice. But I'm warning you, you will regret it later. You're going to be in a world of... It was only for a second, but he had no clue what was going on. He felt something exploding on his face, and a moment later, everything around him turned white. Moaning, he half opened his eyes. His surroundings were engulfed in white fog. Take that! The prey standing in front of his eyes threw some kind of white lump at him from behind the sacks. As soon as the lump hit Madurai's body, it seemed to burst open and scatter in the air. As soon as the prey finished throwing, she thrust her hand into one of the sacks in front of her, grabbed a large amount of powder from it, and earnestly threw a third lump at him. Take that! And that! Madurai didn't flinch, but he was astounded. This was an attack in name only. A childish quarrel. It was like a snowball fight using powder instead of snow. Stupid. Madurai's face twisted in anger. He got excessively upset at the thought that he was being so cautious of what turned out to be nothing but a waste of time. Whatever. Let's just end this. The flickering light reflected sharply in Madurai's eyes. When... Do you know what a dust explosion is? The girl raised her voice at the exact moment Madurai was about to move. His momentum was cut off, and he stopped instinctively. What do you think would happen if I start a fire right now? What are you... Right now, the room was completely covered with flying white powder. A certain disturbing image crossed Madurai's mind. He could imagine the fire spreading from one dust particle to the next, igniting them and blowing up the entire shed. If you do that, it's over for you too. I thought it's over for me no matter what I do. Upon hearing those words, Madurai remembered his own words. It's impossible to predict what someone in despair will do. Madurai concentrated his eyes on the white fog. He couldn't see the girl's silhouette beyond the dust, but he couldn't tell what expression was on her face. He brushed some of the dust from in front of his eyes and could finally see her face. It was completely blank. Furthermore, her entire body had a strange, intimidating air about it. Who the hell are you? It wasn't the face of a frightened prey. Her colorless eyes didn't even twinkle. They were just staring directly at him, unflinching. Madurai's spine shivered. I don't think you can do it. There's nothing here you can use to start a fire. The girl stayed silent. The air around Madurai became heavy as feeling of tension wrapped itself firmly around his body. Dark emotion slowly corroded deep inside his mind. Who the hell is that girl? Madurai thought he could see his own shivering self reflected in her colorless eyes. Should I run away? Try to attack first? The two options flooded in rapid succession inside his head. Then suddenly, just for a split second, his victim's eyes moved. Madurai turned by reflex to the point she was looking at, and saw an industrial vacuum cleaner in the middle of the clutter on the floor. Right next to it was a bare electrical outlet. Vacuum cleaner, electric outlet, sparks. The thought connected inside his mind in an association game. Before he knew it, Madurai started to move. He had no time to hesitate, no margin for caution. He had to get there faster than she could. Madurai took off, almost as if leaping at the vacuum cleaner. He stretched his long arms toward it and grabbed the hose, and then pulled it strongly towards him as if he was about to wield it. That's when he felt something was not quite right. There was some resistance when he pulled. Too much resistance. That wasn't all. The girl herself didn't move a single step. He could see her standing still from the corner of his eye, even now that he had the vacuum cleaner in his hand. He even thought he saw her eyes glittering in anticipation. Oh shit! The sense that something wasn't right transformed into a single word in Madurai's eyes. Trap. But it was too late. A large shadow covered Madurai's vision. It was the shadow of a large stack of shelves, inclining towards him. Cans of paint clattered in slow motion as they fell down from the shelves, on their way towards him. The shadow drew nearer. It was already right in front of his eyes. And then, with a thunderous roar and a cloud of dust, Ishiki Madurai was flattened by the fallen shelves. Oh my god, Ryuko! Holy shit! Holy fuck, Ryuko! God damn! Oh, playing him like a freaking fiddle. Holy shit, just perfectly going, I go in here, I threaten him by blowing up the place, I look at something to give him an idea of what I'm gonna do, when I just have an entire other plan actually in place. Wow, Ryuko. Yeah, fucking, yeah, ultimate analysis, holy shit. So I have a problem is that this has only been 22 minutes. Chapter 10 and 11 is about to start, and it continues right from here, because I can say the dust in the room. But looking at my chapter length list thing next to me, chapters 10 and 11 combined, because I don't know what is the difference between chapter 10 and 11, is as long as chapter 6, which was a 50-minute video. Because I kind of want to stop it here, because otherwise this is going to go over an hour. If chapter 10 and 11 were divided into normal chapters, this would probably be fine, but they're not. It's gonna happen sometimes. Okay. I will just end it here. I know it's a short one, but I'd rather stop right at the proper end of a chapter rather than what I think might be the end of the chapter. And hey, some of these videos might be 23 minutes. Some of them are going to be 50 minutes. The final one's going to be a couple hours. So some of them will be short. Some of them won't be. So, hey, that's how novels work. On the next episode, I feel shitty about ending it here because it's such a short episode. But the next chapter is as long as chapter 6. Like, looking at the sidebar thing where I've got, like, chapter find thing highlighted in the scroll bar, it seems as long as chapter 6, which again, 50 minutes, so whatever. On the next episode, we will continue with the dramatic battle that has been happening here. We've had a lot that is just dedicated, because we had a lot that was dedicated on going back and forth, learning a little bit more about Ryuko, and then it's just been battle sequence for quite some time. From pretty much when Junko and Madurai started fighting, to now, we've got that. But they're using this fight time to explain more about Ryuko as a character, which is exactly what they did with Mukuro in If. They used the fight scenes in If and the way that she demonstrated herself in fight scenes in If to demonstrate more about Mukuro's character, which is exactly what they're doing here with Ryuko. It is amazing how different Ryuko here is compared to before, though. It was like the moment that she realized what her ability was, she possibly started gaining some of her personality back, because just the standing there and just the complete silence and the threatening, intimidating nature and the calculatedness is so different to the bumbling, have to see Mitsuda-kun, like, shy, awkward girl that we saw before. It was like the moment she remembered her power, she just completely changed. Or, so I'm thinking, has remembering that gotten part of her memory back? or her part of her personality back. It's interesting. Anyway, on the next episode, chapter 10 and 11 combined, and it'll probably be like 40 to 50 minutes long to make up for the fact this one is short, because that's just how long the next chapter is. So, until then, this is version 2, signing out.